Thank you everyone for coming. We're doing a presentation on robot in 3 days and our experience with it. I'm Samuel.
I'm Grant.
I'm Davis.
Hello.
Scroll down, try scrolling down.
You can just scroll.
Nope.
Arrow keys.
There we go.
Hey, there we go. Alright, so what is Robot 3 Days? Robot 3 Days is kind of a challenge where your team, through the course of 3 days, is challenged to build an entire FTC robot.
FRC.
FRC. Let's talk about FTC earlier, sorry. FTC robot starting from right when the game's released and having 3 days, where that's everything from programming to building to coding to all of the steps involved.
Alrighty, so on our first day, as soon as we got the game, we started kind of creating ideas of what we wanted to do. And so on this first day, we assembled our chassis, which was an Axis Word, and we started to brainstorm some ideas. So one of those was a PVC pipe to actually hold the coral, or coral analogy would be held by a singular arm. And then also we wanted an elevator to try and go to any position. We also ended up making field elements that day, so we made a makeshift reef out of PVC and 3D printed parts. And we also started CAD on those designs. And then we also programmed radios for later use.
On the second day, we added the actual slides for the chassis. We decided to go for a 4-stage, I think, so that we could have the height, and we wanted to test how many stages we could add. The second thing we did was started wiring the chassis, and then we switched the design to a tube ramp to what we have, so it had a greater margin of error, so we didn't have to be exactly perfect when lining it up. The fourth thing is we added another level to the elevator to make it the fourth level, or the fourth stage. The fifth thing we did was finish creating the barge so we could test some algae things. And then at the end of the day, we finished designing the new manipulator and started manufacturing it.
For day 3, we reassembled this new manipulator with the changes we made, starting from the center 3D printed holder for the external PVC pipe, and the other steps of getting all the wheels and things on like that. Then we needed to add additional clearance for our elevator motors as they were conflicting down at the bottom, in addition to fixing loose mounting for our chain, as this was our first time doing an elevator. And then we also did finish some of the programming and added the camera's field for the field localization.
Now we have a video showing them what we did, or like our finished robot moving.
It's a PDF, so it's not going to play.
No, we're not.
We can hold up
Yeah. For some pros about Robot in 3 days, it exposes strengths and weaknesses of design, so you can get the first set of ideas out of your head and try it on a robot for the competition. It gives you freedom to try many unique ideas that you might not have time to do in your regular season, that maybe are just a little too risky to go ahead and try. The prototypes are quick and numerous, so you can just quick doing that because you have the resources and you can just try stuff, and you have many sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah, and then a few cons that we kind of saw during our time was this short time frame. I mean, 3 days to build a whole robot. That is crazy, right? And it's long days every single day. Usually we worked from 8 until 8, so 12-hour shifts every single day. And that was the first weekend, along with that Monday as well. So it can be incredibly exhausting on your students. Also, it can be a little bit more costly because you're making a whole another robot. Now, what we did in order to try and lower these costs was use just parts that we had lying around. And then also, there's definitely, I think we felt as a team, there's less creative freedom after because we made all of these designs in those 3 days, and we really wanted to try and use those. We ended up not using a lot of them, but there is some pressure to like not waste these designs that you worked so hard on.
So moving forward, some things that we learned from our experience with Robot in 3 days is you have to understand your time management really well because it's hard to understand how short 3 days is for building your entire robot and making sure that everyone's 100% involved in the whole process, not like that you're kind of separated into groups to do your own thing. You have to make sure everyone's together, especially because of time frames, so everyone can be on the same page and testing things. We want more focused goals, so not necessarily because the goal of Robot in 3 days is to, as a team, really test out ideas, get a feel for things. So it's all prototype. So you don't want to get it's about not making a perfect robot for competition. It's about testing ideas and finding concepts that work. And a frame to go on for the future of your other robot. And then something else is trying to reduce burnout because the first day can be really strong, but then towards the end of the second and third day, it's just like everyone's exhausted and trying to find ways to mitigate that.
So here we have a QR code. This is to our YouTube channel. You can find the stream links of all 3 days if you want to check those out. We have them separated by day, and then that also has some other videos like our showing of the robot moving and what it can do.
There's some pretty fun moments if you scrub through the whole thing.
So let's just say that early morning coffee and robot don't get along very well, right?
Yeah.
Plus algae.
So, are there any questions about our process or
Anything about robot in 3 days?
yeah?
How much CAD did you guys do on that? Any at all?
We CAD'd the whole thing.
As you're doing it?
Yes.
In 3 days?
Yeah.
You guys are monsters.
Yeah.
How many people are on your team?
So we split off with our robot in 3 days. This was our first one. So we kind of took it as 2 design team members, a couple manufacturing, and like 2-3 programming members.
And what we also did is we used it as a way to engage some of our alumni that had come back. We had probably about 6 alumni that came back, as well as we had some mentors that were helping with some of the process, which is, we had a robot, we had this robot, we brought it with us to Sussex. We didn't use it in our main competition season because to us, we had too many outside influences on the design and the build of it, that we always make sure that our final build is student driven from beginning to end. I helped these guys do a lot of the CAD too, because as we're working through things, we troubleshoot, we do like quick design reviews between the 3 of us, and then make revisions and 3D prints. We probably 3D printed this core about like
16 times.
yeah, well, probably within those days 6 different times.
Yeah.
But then they continued to revise just to make sure it was functional beyond that. But there's some methods that they use to do that. So.
What kind of pre-work did you guys do, like so before the start of the season?
Some of the pre-work was just getting our material. Most of it was getting the materials ready, and having the stuff to build a robot. We went with max tubing because it was already pre-drilled, so we didn't have to spend time doing that. There was a lot of having materials on hand so that whether it's an elevator year or a shooter year, we were able to make our certain designs. But other than that, not much, right?
Yeah, I think So if you can just have a base chassis ready to go, or like an old chassis you pulled everything off of, that could help you in your process to reduce that. I think that part of like the entire robot in 3 days was kind of the motivation to not have it pre-made, but I think that helped us out.
Yeah.
So a pre-made chassis would be a little bit more ideal, just kind of a generic belly pan and so on.
That's pretty much everything's for it now too, so.
Yeah.
Let's say that it's gonna be all terrain here in this area.
Yeah.
Did you have a designated person for documentation and like
Yeah.
filming and that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Yes. Actually, one of our business team, marketing team members, you can follow the whole chain on Chief Delphi as well. She did all the writing for that. I would give her some feedback on it. And then she was posting pictures and things along with that process to document that process. So that was something that was very important as well. So it's not lost knowledge afterwards.
Control the live stream too. And all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, she ran the live stream and all that stuff too.
So I apologize, I came in a couple minutes late, so maybe you said this. Were you in school while you were doing this?
Yes.
So that's why we say robot in 3 days. We did not stay overnight to do the robot in 3 days like a lot of the other groups, just because restricted by school hours, and that would have been kind of a nightmare to get approved by the principal. He did approve us on the Monday. I did get a sub on the Monday of the 3 days. So we were in the metal shop. The metals teacher's like, I'm going to stay out of there. So he gave us full access to the metal shop those days, and he was like, I got my crew, they can do some book work this week, or today. So we appreciated that quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What kind of equipment do you guys have access to in your shop?
We have 2 Haas CNC mills. We have CNC lathe, 1 to 2 normally functioning mills. A third that doesn't work. A few lathes and some other general.
We have a-
It depends which axis you're talking about.
Yes, the axis you're talking about, and then mostly laser cutter, and many 3D printers.
Yeah. And then, I guess, did you utilize all those in the design, like in this, or did you limit your scope to specific tools?
We tried to do a lot of laser cutting because it was fast, and that we could just throw it on there so we can hit start and it would start doing that. So we did all of our ABS panels out of that. We did a couple CNC parts for like the bars, and then that was majority of.
Yeah, we tried to stick to, we didn't limit ourselves to using all the tools, but we started to fix to 3D printer laser cutter things that were quick, fast for prototyping, because it's all about those fast prototypes. And then if needed, we'll go on to the next stage of using those other tools.
The ABS, like, we have these huge sheets. They're like, want to say like 24 by 36 inch sheets of ABS. I've got a pallet this tall that we've still not made a big dent in. Without that, a lot of this would have been tough, and the prototypes would have been were originally out of like MDF, so which weren't going to last long.
Have an ABS.
Yep. So if you guys can, another option, it's a little bit more expensive, but Delrin laser cuts nicely, and it's pretty impact resistant. That's what they made their FTC robot out of this year.
That's my hand up over here. So, any other questions?
I got one. When you get to learn the game, when do you apply the rules to what you're doing there? Do you just start prototyping and I want to try it this way and I'll look into it if it's a problem with the rules later?
And if,
So what we kind of did was we had a bunch of group of people start prototyping, getting ideas, and then I think it was me and maybe one other person that like quick scanned the rules to get the base gist and making sure we didn't make anything too illegal. And then we kind of looked back at those and said, no, this won't work unless we change it like this, and then kind of went off there.
yeah, so we had concepts, and then we had rules, and then we had a meeting. And we also do something with our team, that Robot in 3 days,
So here's the video that shows what a robot can do.
I think there's actual audio too, but it may not be on. Yes, uncut. Also sponsored by. So you guys have mentioned about getting 100% student involvement the next time you do this. You want to touch on that just a little bit more, define that for people?
Yeah. So, again, something that we did this year was, I mean, we had, I think, less than 10 students on a team with over 50 students, and a lot of those students were, working on the main robot, but also trying to get it so that we're not diving into two different, like, kind of robots, but actually working with the robot in 3As to try and get, more ideas out of it as well. Also to, again, reduce that burnout. With less than 10 students trying to make a robot like this, it's incredibly difficult. As we get more students to kind of help out with it, then this process just becomes so much easier as well.
And one of the things that that's looking towards, like, okay, what's the steps moving forward in this, in terms of our team operation and so on. This has inspired us on how to reform our initial startup of our season, and Sam's got a lot of really cool ideas how we can attack that with an AlphaBot idea, and how to apply this concept but not nearly burning everyone out nearly as fast. So I think that's the thing, is that they talk about burnout, like we spent those 3 days really chugging through, and then our main top performers were burned out in the first weeks of the season. So just taking a different approach that we can still use maybe those 3 days, maybe not go 12 hours, but still taking advantage of those first 3 days and with the whole team in mind. If you want to talk more about what your plans are going into this year, you can tell us, but unless you're keeping it on the down low, I don't know.
So one thing that we kind of realized with this is that, I mean, making a robot in that first week it can be an incredible experience, I guess, because okay. So this allowed us to really ideate really, really fast, and it also.
I know, I put you on the spot.
Think about it. Okay. So kind of converting this into something that I looked at with Citrus Circuits is they do a robot similar to this, but they do an alpha robot. So not actually making it, game legal, but having it where you can have all of your initial designs on just one main robot. That's something that definitely Robot in 3 Days has kind of opened our eyes to, is doing something similar to that. And even if you're not, if you're not looking at doing Robot in 3 Days, doing something like that, I think could be beneficial to your whole team. I hope it will be beneficial to our team as well in the future. So we're trying to hopefully implement that this upcoming year. Yeah.
I think the problem that these guys always get into, and it becomes a trend every year, is really getting stuck in that CAD realm, because we're a very CAD driven team, and a lot of these guys love to draw in CAD as much as possible throughout the entire year, that sometimes it's like, okay, let's come back to reality and we got to build a physical robot too. We can do hundreds, if not thousands, of iterations electronically, but at some point we got to build a physical robot.
Were there any things that in your initial Robot in 3 Days design aspects that you stuck with, that you, in your final robot, that you, where you invested that time and you didn't want to give it up? Do you have any hindsight now, like you really should have probably given that up and went in a different direction?
The kind of the top, like the concept of like top mount, the having our manipulator mounted up in the top versus having it mounted lower, kind of stuck with us through our design. It wasn't necessarily a bad decision to stick with it. It was just something that we wanted to look past to keeping those ideas. And like expanding upon that question further, some things that we like, even in the design of this Robot 3 Days, that changed throughout the process, but also kind of came as like, oh, but we kind of want to try to keep this open, so let's not go this way. It was like, we wanted to do a donut climb through the center, and that changed how open we wanted our center to be, until we finally got to that place where we're like, we're not trying to do everything, we're trying to like figure out certain aspects of the game to test things. Or when we were able to let that idea go, we were able to really push forward with the design of the robot, being able to finalize the manipulator, because it kept going, it went through like 16 different ideas.
The other thing that we kind of switched with and then we moved back was, right now we have the manipulator for the LG in Colon 1, and at the beginning of the season we kind of went away from that and had our Colon 1 manipulator and our LG in a different one near the bottom. But then we saw that it took up way too much room and we didn't have enough room for a climb, so we decided to go back to the way of, let's make everything into one, more compact, so that it is, so that we have less weight and we have more room for stuff.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for coming to our presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know we all did, so thank you. And good luck today as well.